Maya's fingers moved with practiced precision as she adjusted the scope on the rifle. The early morning mist hung low over the training compound, creating an almost ghostly atmosphere that she had grown to love. This was her sanctuary, the place where everything made sense and the chaos of the world faded into background noise. She had been working with firearms for over 8 years now, ever since her father first taught her to shoot tin cans behind their old farmhouse. What started as weekend fun had evolved into something much more serious. Maya discovered she had a natural talent that couldn't be ignored. Her steady hands, sharp eyes, and ability to control her breathing made her exceptional with any weapon she touched. The rifle she was currently tuning was a custom-built precision instrument. Every component had been carefully selected and modified to work in perfect harmony. The barrel was hand-lapped for consistency. The trigger was adjusted to break cleanly at exactly 2 pounds of pressure, and the stock was fitted specifically to her body measurements. This wasn't just a tool to Maya. It was an extension of herself. As she made minute adjustments to the windage knob, Maya reflected on how she had ended up at this elite training facility. After college, she had joined a private security company that specialized in protecting high-value targets. Her exceptional marksmanship skills quickly caught the attention of her supervisors, and within 2 years, she was recruited for specialized training. The compound where she now trained was hidden deep in the mountains of Colorado. Only the most skilled shooters were invited to participate in the advanced program. The selection process was grueling, involving psychological evaluations, physical fitness tests, and shooting assessments that pushed participants to their absolute limits. Out of 300 applicants, only 12 had been chosen for this cycle. Maya was the only woman in the group, a fact that had initially made some of her fellow trainees uncomfortable. She had faced skepticism and doubt from day one, but she let her performance speak for itself. While others talked and boasted about their abilities, Maya quietly went about her work, consistently outperforming expectations and earning grudging respect from her peers. The training regimen was intense and comprehensive. Morning sessions focused on physical conditioning, including long-distance running, strength training, and flexibility exercises. The afternoon sessions were dedicated to marksmanship, starting with basic fundamentals and progressing to complex scenarios involving moving targets, adverse weather conditions, and high-stress situations. What Maya enjoyed most about the training was the technical aspect. Each weapon had its own personality and quirks that needed to be understood and accommodated. She spent hours studying ballistics charts, learning about bullet drop, wind drift, and the effects of temperature and humidity on projectile flight. This knowledge allowed her to make accurate shots at distances that seemed impossible to most people. The other trainees had various backgrounds. Some were former military snipers looking to transition to civilian careers. Others were competitive shooters seeking to take their skills to the next level. A few, like Maya, had discovered their talent later in life and were exploring new possibilities. Despite their different paths, they all shared a common dedication to excellence and a deep respect for the precision required in their craft. Maya's instructor, a grizzled former Marine named Sergeant Rodriguez, had initially been skeptical of her abilities. He had seen many talented shooters over the years, but he had never worked with someone who approached the craft with such methodical precision. While other students relied primarily on natural talent, Maya combined her innate abilities with meticulous preparation and an almost scientific approach to problem solving. The daily routine at the compound was structured but not rigid. Trainees were expected to maintain their equipment, study assigned materials, and participate in group exercises designed to build teamwork and communication skills. There was also time for individual practice, which Maya treasured above all else. During these solo sessions, she would experiment with different shooting positions, test various ammunition types, and work on breathing techniques that helped her achieve the calm focus necessary for precision shooting. She treated each session like a laboratory experiment, carefully documenting her results and analyzing what worked and what didn't. The other trainees had begun to notice Maya's unconventional methods. While they spent their free time socializing or resting, she could often be found in the workshop, carefully cleaning and adjusting her equipment. Her attention to detail was extraordinary, and her dedication was beginning to pay dividends in her performance scores. The compound's shooting ranges were state-of-the-art facilities designed to simulate real-world conditions. There were urban environments with multiple levels and obstacles, rural settings with varying terrain and vegetation, and even a climate-controlled chamber that could replicate different weather conditions. Each range presented unique challenges that required shooters to adapt their techniques and equipment. Maya's favorite range was the long-distance facility, which stretched out over a mile into the valley below. Targets could be placed at distances ranging from 500 to 2,000 yards, testing the absolute limits of both equipment and human capability. The range was equipped with electronic sensors that could measure impact points to within fractions of an inch, providing immediate feedback on performance. As she finished tuning her rifle, Maya felt the familiar sense of satisfaction that came from knowing her equipment was perfectly prepared. Every component was functioning exactly as intended, and she was confident that any missed shots would be due to her own limitations rather than mechanical failure. The sun was beginning to rise higher, burning off the morning mist and revealing the sprawling valley below. Soon the other trainees would arrive for the day's activities, but for now, Maya savored the quiet solitude. These peaceful moments before the intensity of training began were precious to her, providing time to center herself and prepare mentally for the challenges ahead. She picked up her rifle and walked toward the shooting line, ready to begin another day of pushing her limits and striving for perfection. Maya had no idea that this particular morning would bring an encounter that would change everything, challenging not only her skills, but also her understanding of what it meant to be truly exceptional in her craft. The morning training session proceeded as usual, with the 12 trainees working through a series of precision shooting exercises. Maya had taken her position at Lane 7, the same spot she had claimed on her first day at the compound. The familiar routine of setting up her equipment and checking her shooting position helped calm her nerves and focus her mind. Sergeant Rodriguez was making his rounds, observing each shooter and offering guidance where needed. His weathered face showed decades of experience, and his keen eye could spot the smallest flaws in technique. When he reached Maya's position, he paused to watch her fire a 5-shot group at a target 800 yards away. The rifle's report echoed across the valley as Maya sent each bullet downrange with mechanical precision. Through the spotting scope, Rodriguez could see the impacts forming a tight cluster in the center of the target. The group measured less than 3 inches across, an impressive feat at that distance. "Consistent as always, Chen," Rodriguez remarked, using Maya's last name as was his habit with all the trainees. "But I want you to try something different today. Move back to the 1,000-yard line and work on your wind reading skills. The morning breeze is picking up and it'll give you some good practice." Maya nodded and began gathering her equipment. The 1,000-yard line was significantly more challenging, requiring her to account for bullet drop, wind drift, and the Earth's rotation over the extended flight time. She relished these difficult shots because they demanded the highest level of skill and concentration. As she was setting up at the new position, Maya became aware of someone watching her. She glanced to her left and saw a man she didn't recognize standing near the range control tower. He was tall and lean, with short-cropped hair and the confident posture of someone accustomed to command. His clothing was civilian, but something about his bearing suggested military experience. The stranger's presence was unusual because the compound was normally restricted to authorized personnel only. Visitors were rare, and they were typically accompanied by Rodriguez or one of the other instructors. This man appeared to be observing the training session on his own, his attention focused particularly on Maya's activities. Maya tried to ignore the observer and concentrate on her shooting. She studied the wind flags placed at various points downrange, noting how they indicated changing conditions at different distances. The breeze was coming from her right at about 8 miles per hour, with occasional gusts that would require careful timing. She settled into her prone position, adjusting her body alignment and rifle placement for optimal stability. The bipod legs were extended to the proper height, and her left hand was positioned to provide fine adjustments to the rifle's elevation. Her breathing slowed as she entered the focused mental state that preceded each shot. Through her scope, the target appeared as a small circle with distinct scoring rings. At 1,000 yards, even the slightest error in aim point or timing would result in a missed shot. Maya calculated the necessary adjustments for bullet drop and wind drift, then waited for a lull in the breeze. The crosshairs settled on the target center, and Maya began her firing sequence. Her breathing pattern was precise and controlled, allowing her heart rate to slow and minimize any movement that might affect her aim. As she reached the natural respiratory pause, her finger began the slow, steady pressure on the trigger. The rifle fired with a sharp crack, and Maya immediately worked the bolt to chamber another round while maintaining her sight picture. Through the scope, she could see the impact point marked by a small puff of dust just to the right of center. The wind had been stronger than anticipated, but the shot was still well within the acceptable scoring area. She made a small adjustment to her aim point and fired 4 more shots, each one carefully planned and executed. The final group measured just over 4 inches. Excellent performance considering the challenging conditions. Maya was pleased with her shooting, but noticed that the stranger was still watching her with obvious interest. After completing her firing exercise, Maya began cleaning her rifle barrel in preparation for the next phase of training. This maintenance ritual was crucial for maintaining accuracy, as even small amounts of copper fouling could affect bullet flight. She used a bronze brush and solvent to remove residue, followed by clean patches until they emerged spotless. The stranger approached as she was finishing her cleaning routine. Up close, Maya could see that he was probably in his early 40s, with intelligent gray eyes and a slight smile that suggested confidence bordering on arrogance. His handshake was firm when he introduced himself. "Impressive shooting," he said simply. "I'm Jackson Cole. I've been watching your progress here with great interest." Maya wasn't sure how to respond. The name meant nothing to her, but his presence at the restricted facility suggested he had significant authority or connections. She decided to keep her response professional and neutral. "Thank you," she replied. "Are you here to observe the training program?" Cole's smile broadened slightly. "In a manner of speaking, yes. I'm always interested in exceptional talent, and your instructors speak very highly of your abilities. Mind if I ask how long you've been shooting?" "About 8 years seriously," Maya answered, still uncertain about this man's intentions. "But I've been training here for only 3 months. And before that? Private security work mostly. Some competitive shooting on weekends." Cole nodded thoughtfully. "I see. Well, your background certainly doesn't reflect the level of skill you're demonstrating. That kind of natural ability combined with proper training can lead to remarkable results." There was something in his tone that made Maya uncomfortable, though she couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. Cole spoke like someone who was evaluating her for a purpose she wasn't aware of, and his questions felt more like an interview than casual conversation. "I suppose you're wondering why I'm here," Cole continued. "I represent certain interests that are always looking for individuals with your particular skill set. People who can perform under pressure and maintain their composure in challenging situations." Before Maya could respond, Sergeant Rodriguez's voice boomed across the range, calling all trainees to gather for the afternoon briefing. She was grateful for the interruption, as Cole's vague references to certain interests had made her increasingly wary. "We'll continue this conversation later," Cole said, handing her a plain business card with only a phone number printed on it. "I think you'll find what I have to offer very interesting." As Maya watched him walk away, she felt a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. His appearance at the compound couldn't be coincidental, and his interest in her abilities suggested opportunities she had never considered. At the same time, his secretive manner and cryptic comments raised questions about what kind of work he might have in mind. She slipped the card into her pocket and gathered her equipment, her mind racing with possibilities as she headed toward the briefing room. The afternoon briefing covered advanced ballistics calculations and environmental factors that affected long-range shooting. Maya tried to focus on Sergeant Rodriguez's presentation, but her mind kept drifting to her encounter with Jackson Cole. His mysterious offer intrigued her, even as it raised numerous red flags about his true intentions. After the session ended, Maya returned to her quarters to research Cole's background. The sparse dormitory room contained only the basics: a single bed, desk, small dresser, and a secure locker for personal items. The compound's internet access was restricted, but she was able to search for information about the mysterious visitor. Her searches yielded frustratingly little information. Jackson Cole appeared to be a common name, and without additional identifying details, she couldn't narrow down which person might have visited the facility. The business card he had given her contained only a phone number with no company, name, or other identifying information. Maya decided to call her former supervisor at the security company to see if he knew anything about Cole or organizations that recruited from specialized training programs. Mark Harrison had been in the industry for over 20 years and maintained extensive contacts throughout the security and defense communities. "Maya, good to hear from you," Harrison said when she reached him. "How's the mountain air treating you?" "It's challenging but rewarding," she replied. "Mark, I need to ask you about something confidential. Have you ever heard of someone named Jackson Cole?" There was a pause before Harrison responded. "That's not a name I recognize offhand." "What's the context?" Maya described her encounter with Cole, carefully omitting specific details about the facility's location and activities. Harrison listened without interrupting, occasionally asking for clarification about Cole's appearance and manner of speaking. "Based on what you're telling me, this sounds like recruitment for black operations or specialized government work," Harrison finally said. "There are several agencies and private contractors that operate in the shadows, looking for people with unique skill sets. The secrecy and vague job descriptions are typical of that world." "Is that something I should be concerned about?" Maya asked. "It depends on your goals and risk tolerance," Harrison replied. "That kind of work can be very lucrative and professionally rewarding, but it also comes with significant dangers and ethical complications. My advice would be to get much more specific information before making any commitments." Maya thanked him for the advice and ended the call. She spent the evening researching government contractors and private military companies, trying to understand what kind of opportunities might exist for someone with her skills. The information available publicly was limited, but she began to grasp the scope of operations that required precision shooters. The next morning brought a new training exercise that would test the trainees' abilities under simulated combat conditions. The scenario involved multiple targets at varying distances, with time pressure and stress-inducing elements designed to replicate real-world challenges. Maya had just finished checking her equipment when Cole appeared beside her shooting position. In the daylight, she noticed details she had missed during their previous encounter. His clothing was expensive but deliberately unremarkable, and he wore a watch that she recognized as a high-end tactical model favored by special operations personnel. "Ready for today's challenge?" Cole asked casually, as if their previous conversation had been completely normal. "I'm always ready," Maya replied, trying to match his casual tone while remaining alert for any additional clues about his background or intentions. "I've been watching your scores from yesterday's exercises," Cole continued. "Consistently in the top 5%, often the best performance of the day. That level of consistency under varying conditions is quite rare." Maya wondered how he had access to detailed training records, but she decided not to ask directly. Instead, she focused on preparing for the morning's exercise while keeping Cole in her peripheral vision. The training scenario began with targets appearing at random intervals and locations throughout a complex range designed to simulate an urban environment. Trainees had to identify threats, prioritize targets based on danger level, and engage them accurately while moving between different firing positions. Maya's first target appeared 400 yards away, partially concealed behind a concrete barrier. She quickly calculated the shooting solution and fired, watching the impact indicator confirm a center hit. Without pausing, she moved to her next position while scanning for additional targets. The exercise continued for 30 minutes, with targets appearing and disappearing according to a computer-controlled sequence. Maya maintained her composure throughout, methodically engaging each target while managing her ammunition and movement between positions. Her final score was the highest of the day, surpassing even the experienced military veterans in her training group. As she was cleaning her rifle after the exercise, Cole approached again. This time his demeanor was more serious and businesslike. "That was exceptional work," he said. "I think it's time we discuss some concrete opportunities that might interest you." Maya looked up from her cleaning routine. "I'm listening." "There's a specialized unit that handles sensitive operations requiring precision marksmanship," Cole explained. "The work is challenging and well compensated, but it requires absolute discretion and the ability to operate in various international environments." "What kind of operations?" Maya asked. "Asset protection, threat elimination, reconnaissance support," Cole replied vaguely. "The specific missions vary, but they all require someone who can make difficult shots under pressure while maintaining operational security." Maya considered his words carefully. The description was generic enough to cover legitimate security work, but it could also encompass activities she might not be comfortable with. She decided to probe for more specific information. Who would I be working for? She asked. A consortium of clients with varied interests, Cole answered. Government agencies, multinational corporations, private individuals who require specialized services. The work is project-based, so you would have significant control over which assignments you accept. And the compensation? Cole smiled for the first time during their conversation. Starting contracts typically range from $50,000 to $100,000, depending on complexity and duration. Experienced operators can command significantly higher rates. The numbers were impressive, far exceeding what Maya could earn in traditional security work. However, the vague descriptions and secretive nature of Cole's recruitment approach continued to concern her. I'll need time to consider this, Maya said finally. Of course, Cole replied, but don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't remain available indefinitely, and we prefer to work with people who can make decisive decisions. He handed her another business card, this one containing an email address in addition to the phone number. Send me a message when you're ready to discuss specifics. I think you'll find the details much more appealing than these general descriptions. As Cole walked away, Maya realized that her peaceful training experience was about to become much more complicated. The mysterious offer represented a potential turning point in her career, but it also carried risks she was only beginning to understand. She needed more information before making any decisions, and she suspected that getting those details would require taking steps she might not be able to reverse. Maya spent the next several days researching everything she could about specialized military contractors and government operations that employed precision shooters. The compound's limited internet access frustrated her efforts, but she managed to piece together information about various organizations and their recruiting methods. Her training performance remained consistently excellent, but she found herself distracted by thoughts of Cole's offer. The financial compensation was tempting, especially considering her student loans and the uncertain future of her current security career. However, the secretive nature of the proposed work raised serious questions about what she might be getting herself into. During a particularly challenging long-range exercise, Maya noticed another unfamiliar face observing the training session. This time it was a woman in her 30s with short blonde hair and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to authority. She wore civilian clothing but carried herself with military precision. The woman approached Maya's shooting position as the exercise concluded. Unlike Cole's casual manner, this person was direct and businesslike in her introduction. Maya Chen, I'm Sarah Mitchell. I understand Jackson Cole has been discussing potential opportunities with you. Maya was surprised by the woman's directness. Yes, we've spoken briefly about some kind of specialized work. I work with the same organization, Mitchell explained. I'm here to provide you with more specific information about what we do and what would be expected of you. I'm listening, Maya replied, grateful for the prospect of getting concrete details about the mysterious job offer. Mitchell glanced around to ensure they weren't being overheard, then continued in a lower voice. We provide specialized services to clients who require discrete solutions to complex problems. This often involves operations in foreign countries where conventional military or law enforcement resources aren't available or appropriate. What kind of problems? Maya asked. Hostage rescue, asset recovery, threat elimination, intelligence gathering, Mitchell listed matter-of-factly. The work requires people who can operate independently in challenging environments while maintaining absolute professionalism. Maya appreciated Mitchell's straightforward approach, but the description still seemed deliberately vague. She decided to push for more specific information. Can you give me an example of a typical mission? Maya asked. Mitchell considered the question carefully before responding. Last month, we assisted in recovering a kidnapped executive from a facility in Southeast Asia. The local authorities were either unable or unwilling to act, so the victim's company hired us to resolve the situation. My team handled reconnaissance and overwatch while the primary rescue team extracted the target. The example was more concrete than anything Cole had provided, but it also highlighted the dangerous nature of the proposed work. Maya realized she was being recruited for operations that could involve armed conflict in foreign countries. What would my specific role be? Maya asked. Precision marksmanship support, Mitchell replied. You would provide overwatch for team operations, eliminate specific threats as needed, and assist with reconnaissance activities that require long-range observation capabilities. Eliminate threats, Maya repeated, understanding the euphemism's meaning. Yes, Mitchell confirmed without hesitation. This work sometimes requires lethal force to protect team members or accomplish mission objectives. That's why we're very selective about who we recruit. Maya felt a chill as the conversation's implications became clear. She was being recruited as a sniper for what amounted to private military operations. The high compensation now made sense given the extreme risks and moral complexities involved. I need to think about this, Maya said finally. Of course, Mitchell replied, but I want to be clear about one thing. If you decide to join us, there will be a comprehensive vetting process including psychological evaluations, polygraph tests, and extensive background investigations. We need to be certain that our people can handle the stress and maintain operational security. Mitchell handed Maya a secure communication device about the size of a smartphone. This will allow you to contact us when you're ready to discuss next steps. It's encrypted and untraceable, so you can ask questions freely without security concerns. As Mitchell walked away, Maya stared at the device in her hands. She was now holding direct communication access to what appeared to be a shadowy organization that operated outside normal legal and military channels. The weight of the decision before her was becoming overwhelming. That evening, Maya called her former supervisor again to discuss her situation without revealing specific details about the recruitment process. Harrison listened carefully to her concerns about the ethical implications of the proposed work. The private military industry has expanded dramatically in recent years, Harrison explained. There are legitimate companies that provide valuable services, but there are also organizations that operate in legal gray areas. The key is understanding exactly who you would be working for and what oversight exists for their operations. How can I determine that? Maya asked. Ask specific questions about their corporate structure, insurance coverage, legal compliance procedures, and client vetting processes, Harrison advised. Legitimate companies are transparent about these issues because they protect both the organization and its employees. Maya spent the next few days formulating a list of detailed questions about the organization's structure and operations. She wanted to understand the legal framework that governed their activities, the types of clients they served, and the safeguards that existed to prevent mission creep or illegal activities. When she finally activated the communication device Mitchell had given her, she was connected within minutes to what appeared to be a professional operations center. The person who answered knew her name and seemed to be expecting her call. "This is Maya Chen," she said. "I have some questions about the organization and the work you do." "Of course," came the professional reply. "Let me transfer you to someone who can provide detailed information about our operations and policies." The call was transferred to a man who identified himself as the organization's operational director. He patiently answered Maya's questions about corporate structure, revealing that they operated as a licensed private military company with headquarters in Virginia and offices in several other countries. "We work exclusively with vetted clients including government agencies, multinational corporations, and non-governmental organizations," he explained. "All of our operations are conducted within applicable legal frameworks, and we maintain comprehensive insurance coverage for our personnel." The answers were reassuring, but Maya still had concerns about the moral implications of the work. She asked about their rules of engagement and oversight procedures for operations involving lethal force. "We operate under strict protocols that are reviewed by our legal department and external consultants," the director replied. "Every mission is planned with multiple approval levels, and our personnel receive extensive training on international law and rules of engagement." The conversation continued for over an hour, with Maya asking increasingly detailed questions about training requirements, deployment schedules, compensation structures, and career advancement opportunities. By the end of the call, she had a much clearer picture of what joining the organization would entail. As she considered her options, Maya realized that she was at a crossroads that would define the rest of her career. The opportunity offered financial security and professional challenges that were unavailable in conventional security work, but it also meant accepting moral responsibilities that she had never faced before. The decision would require her to honestly assess her own values and determine whether she could live with the consequences of using her skills in lethal operations. The comfortable world of target shooting and training exercises was about to give way to something far more serious and permanent. Maya's internal debate continued for several days as she weighed the pros and cons of joining the mysterious organization. The financial benefits were undeniable, and the professional challenges appealed to her competitive nature. However, the moral implications of potentially taking lives troubled her deeply. She decided to seek advice from someone with relevant experience. During her research, Maya had discovered that one of her fellow trainees, a former Marine named David Kim, had previously worked for a private military contractor before joining the training program. She approached him carefully, not wanting to reveal specific details about her recruitment. "David, can I ask you about your experience with private contractors?" Maya inquired during a break between training sessions. Kim looked up from cleaning his rifle. "Sure, what do you want to know?" "How do you deal with the moral aspects of the work?" Maya asked. "The possibility of having to use lethal force in situations that might be morally ambiguous?" Kim set down his cleaning rod and gave Maya his full attention. "That's a question every operator has to answer for themselves," he said thoughtfully. "For me, it came down to ensuring that I only worked for organizations with clear ethical standards and legitimate clients." "How do you determine if an organization meets those criteria?" Maya pressed. "Research their track record, talk to former employees, verify their client base," Kim replied. "If they're secretive about basic information or refuse to provide references, that's a red flag. Legitimate companies are proud of their reputation and willing to be transparent about their operations." Maya appreciated Kim's practical advice, but she realized that her situation was more complex than a simple employer evaluation. The organization that had recruited her seemed professional and well-established, but the nature of their work still raised fundamental questions about her own values and boundaries. That evening, Maya used the secure communication device to request additional information about the organization's client base and recent operations. She wanted to understand exactly what types of missions she might be asked to participate in, and whether they aligned with her personal ethical standards. The response came within hours, providing detailed case studies of recent operations that had been declassified for recruitment purposes. Maya studied the materials carefully, noting that the missions seemed to focus on legitimate security objectives rather than questionable political or commercial activities. One case study described a hostage rescue operation in West Africa, where the organization had assisted in freeing aid workers kidnapped by criminal groups. Another detailed their role in protecting corporate executives during a political crisis in South America. The missions appeared to have clear moral justifications and legal authorization. However, Maya understood that these examples were carefully selected to present the organization in the best possible light. She needed to understand what their more controversial operations might involve and whether she would have the right to decline missions that conflicted with her values. She used the communication device to request a meeting with a current operator who could provide honest insights about the reality of the work. Within 2 days, she received a message scheduling a meeting with someone identified only as Agent Thompson. The meeting took place at a coffee shop in a nearby town, away from the training compound. Thompson turned out to be a woman in her late 20s with an unremarkable appearance that would blend into any crowd. Her calm demeanor and careful word choice suggested extensive experience in sensitive operations. "I understand you're considering joining our organization," Thompson began without preamble. "I'm here to answer your questions honestly, based on 3 years of operational experience." Maya appreciated Thompson's direct approach. "What's the most difficult aspect of the work?" she asked. "The isolation," Thompson replied without hesitation. "You can't talk about your work with family or friends. You spend long periods away from home, and you're constantly aware that your actions have life or death consequences for yourself and others. Have you ever been asked to do something that conflicted with your personal ethics?" Maya asked. Thompson considered the question carefully. "I've been in situations where I had to make difficult decisions under time pressure," she replied. "But I've never been ordered to do something that I felt was fundamentally wrong. The organization's screening process and mission approval procedures are designed to prevent those situations." "What happens if you refuse a mission?" Maya pressed. "You have the right to decline any assignment for any reason," Thompson explained. "It might affect your standing for future high-profile missions, but there's no penalty for exercising that right." The organization prefers operators who are confident in their decisions rather than people who might hesitate at critical moments. Maya found Thompson's honesty reassuring, but she still had concerns about the long-term psychological effects of the work. She asked about support systems for operators dealing with stress and trauma. The organization provides comprehensive psychological support, Thompson replied. Regular counseling sessions, stress management training, and immediate intervention when needed. They understand that maintaining mental health is crucial for operational effectiveness. The conversation continued for over 2 hours, with Thompson providing detailed insights about training requirements, deployment schedules, equipment provision, and career progression opportunities. By the end of the meeting, Maya had a realistic understanding of what joining the organization would mean for her personal and professional life. As Thompson prepared to leave, she offered one final piece of advice. "This work isn't for everyone," she said. "It requires a specific type of personality and value system. Take time to honestly assess whether you can handle the responsibilities and consequences. Once you're in, backing out becomes much more complicated." Maya returned to the training compound with much to consider. Thompson's insights had been valuable, but they had also highlighted the irreversible nature of the decision she faced. Joining the organization would fundamentally change her life in ways she was only beginning to understand. That night, Maya made a list of her personal values and priorities, trying to determine whether they were compatible with the proposed work. She thought about her goals for the future and whether the path being offered aligned with her long-term aspirations. The decision was complicated by her growing dissatisfaction with conventional security work. The training program had shown her capabilities she never knew she possessed, and the prospect of using those skills in meaningful operations was appealing. At the same time, she recognized that crossing certain lines might change her in ways she couldn't predict or control. As she lay in bed that night, Maya realized that she was no longer the same person who had arrived at the training compound 3 months earlier. The intensive program had pushed her to develop skills and confidence that opened up possibilities she had never imagined. The question now was whether she was brave enough to pursue those possibilities, knowing that they came with risks and responsibilities that would test her character in unprecedented ways. The morning would bring new training, exercises, and continued pressure to make a decision about her future. Maya knew that her time for deliberation was running out, and soon she would have to choose between the safety of her current path and the uncertain but potentially rewarding opportunity that had been placed before her. The next morning brought an unexpected development that would force Maya to confront her decision sooner than anticipated. As she was preparing for the day's training exercises, Sergeant Rodriguez approached her with a serious expression. "Chen, report to the administrative office immediately," he ordered. "You have visitors." Maya's heart raced as she wondered if her family had been contacted or if there was some emergency at home. She quickly gathered her gear and hurried to the main building, her mind racing through various possibilities. In the Yao administrative office, she found Jackson Cole and Sarah Mitchell waiting for her, along with a man she didn't recognize. The stranger was older, probably in his 50s, with graying hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command authority. "Maya, thank you for coming," Cole said as she entered the room. "I'd like you to meet Director Harrison Walsh, our operational commander. He's here to discuss an urgent situation that requires immediate attention." Walsh extended his hand for a firm handshake. "Ms. Chen, I've reviewed your training records and spoken with our people who have been evaluating your capabilities. I'm impressed by what I've seen." "Thank you, sir," Maya replied cautiously, still uncertain about the purpose of this meeting. "We have a situation that requires immediate response," Walsh continued without preamble. "One of our operatives has been captured during a reconnaissance mission in Eastern Europe. We need to mount a rescue operation within the next 72 hours. Maya felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with anxiety. "I'm still in training," she protested. "I haven't completed the program or made any commitment to your organization. Under normal circumstances, we would never consider deploying someone with your limited experience," Walsh acknowledged. "However, this operation requires specific skills that match your demonstrated capabilities. The target location presents unique challenges that make your particular expertise invaluable." Mitchell stepped forward with a tablet computer displaying satellite imagery and tactical maps. The captured operative is being held in a facility located in mountainous terrain, she explained. The extraction team needs overwatch support from elevated positions at ranges exceeding 1,200 yards. Your performance at those distances has been exceptional. Maya studied the imagery, noting the complex terrain and limited approach routes to the target facility. The tactical challenges were immediately apparent, and she could see why long-range, precision fire would be crucial for the operation's success. What exactly would my role be? Maya asked, surprised by her own interest in the tactical problem despite her reservations about joining the organization. Overwatch and threat elimination, Walsh replied. You would be positioned to provide covering fire for the extraction team and eliminate specific targets that pose threats to the operation. The mission profile suggests you might need to engage targets at ranges up to 1,400 yards. The distances mentioned were at the extreme edge of Maya's demonstrated capabilities, but she knew she could make such shots under ideal conditions. However, the pressure of an actual combat situation would be entirely different from training exercises. This would be a combat operation, Maya said, stating the obvious but needing to verbalize the reality. People could be killed. Yes, Walsh confirmed without hesitation. The intelligence indicates that the facility is guarded by armed personnel who will resist any rescue attempt. We expect casualties on both sides. Maya felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. This was no longer an abstract discussion about future possibilities. She was being asked to participate in an operation that would involve life or death, decisions, and potentially lethal force within a matter of days. I need time to consider this, Maya said, though she realized that time was the one resource that wasn't available. I understand your hesitation, Walsh replied. But our captured operative is a decorated veteran with a family who is counting on our organization to bring him home. Every hour we delay reduces the chances of a successful rescue. The emotional appeal was effective, but Maya recognized it as a deliberate psychological pressure technique. She needed to make her decision based on rational analysis rather than emotional manipulation. If I agree to participate, what guarantees do I have regarding legal protection and operational support? Maya asked. Full diplomatic immunity through government channels, comprehensive insurance coverage, and immediate extraction if the operation is compromised, Walsh listed. This mission has official sanction at the highest levels, so legal complications are not a concern. Mitchell added additional details about the tactical plan, equipment provisions, and backup procedures. The operation had been planned meticulously, with multiple contingency options and extensive intelligence support. Maya could see that this was a professional organization with significant resources and capabilities. Cole, who had remained silent during most of the briefing, finally spoke. Maya, I know this is a difficult decision to make under time pressure, but I believe you have the skills and character needed for this mission. More importantly, I think you need this challenge to fully understand your own capabilities. There was truth in Cole's observation. The training program had shown Maya that she possessed abilities far beyond what she had previously imagined, but she had never tested those skills under real-world pressure. Part of her was curious about whether she could perform at the level these experienced operators believed possible. What happens after this mission? Maya asked. Am I committed to future operations? This would be a trial deployment, Walsh explained. If you perform well and decide you want to continue, we'll discuss long-term arrangements. If you decide this work isn't for you, there are no further obligations. Maya realized that she was being offered a unique opportunity to test herself in the field without making a permanent commitment. The risks were real, but so was the chance to discover whether she had what it took to operate at the highest levels of her profession. I need 30 minutes to make my decision, Maya said finally. Walsh nodded. Take all the time you need. We'll wait here for your answer. Maya left the office and walked outside into the crisp mountain air. The training compound spread out below her, with its carefully designed ranges and controlled environment. In a few hours, she might be leaving this safe space for a real-world operation, where mistakes could have fatal consequences. She thought about the captured operative and his family, weighing their situation against her own concerns about crossing into lethal operations. She considered her own goals, and whether this opportunity aligned with her values and aspirations. Most importantly, Maya tried to honestly assess whether she was ready for the responsibilities and consequences that would come with participating in a combat operation. The decision would define not only her immediate future, but also her understanding of herself and her capabilities. As she stood looking out over the valley, Maya realized that her time for deliberation and preparation was over. The moment had arrived when she would have to choose between safety and uncertainty, between her current limitations and her potential for growth. The next 30 minutes would determine the direction of her entire career. Maya spent the 30 minutes walking around the compound, revisiting the places where she had pushed her limits and discovered capabilities she never knew she possessed. The shooting ranges where she had learned to make impossible shots, the equipment workshop where she had perfected her rifle tuning techniques, and the observation towers where she had spent countless hours studying wind patterns and environmental factors. As she walked, Maya reflected on her journey from a weekend recreational shooter to someone being recruited for elite military operations. The transformation had been gradual but profound, and she realized that her previous life of routine security work would never satisfy her again. She had tasted excellence and discovered a passion for precision that demanded increasingly challenging applications. The captured operative's situation weighed heavily on her mind. Maya imagined his family waiting for news, not knowing whether their loved one would return home safely. She thought about her own family and how they would feel if she were in similar circumstances. The moral imperative to help rescue someone in danger resonated with her fundamental values. At the same time, Maya understood that accepting this mission would cross a line she could never uncross. Once she had participated in a lethal operation, she would be forever changed, regardless of the outcome. The theoretical discussions about using deadly force would become personal reality, with psychological consequences. She couldn't fully predict. Maya found herself standing at the 1,000-yard shooting line where she had first encountered Jackson Cole. The target frame stood silently in the distance, innocent circles of paper that had helped her develop skills now being requested for life or death purposes. The irony wasn't lost on her that her peaceful pursuit of marksmanship excellence had led to this moment of decision. She closed her eyes and tried to imagine herself in the proposed operational scenario. Lying prone on a mountainside, rifle steady, crosshairs centered on a human target instead of a paper circle. The technical aspects would be the same: breathing control, trigger manipulation, wind calculation, but the psychological pressure would be overwhelming. Could she actually pull the trigger, knowing that the bullet would end someone's life? Maya had always assumed that when faced with a clear threat to innocent people, she would be capable of decisive action. But the reality of deliberately taking a human life was something no amount of training could fully prepare her for. The minutes ticked by as Maya wrestled with her decision. She thought about her conversation with Thompson, who had emphasized the importance of being honest about one's capabilities and limitations. Maya realized that she wouldn't know her own limits until they were tested under real conditions. Finally, Maya acknowledged that her decision had already been made during the briefing. Despite her concerns and fears, she was going to accept the mission. The combination of professional challenge, moral imperative, and personal curiosity had created a compelling case that overrode her reservations. She returned to the administrative building and knocked on the office door. Walsh looked up expectantly as she entered, followed by Cole and Mitchell. "I'll do it," Maya said simply, "but I want clear rules of engagement and the right to abort if the situation exceeds my capabilities." Walsh smiled for the first time since she had met him. "Agreed. Welcome to the team, Maya. You won't regret this decision." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as Maya was rapidly integrated into the operational planning process. She was introduced to the other team members, each a specialist in their respective fields. The team leader was a former Special Forces operator named Marcus Rivera, whose calm professionalism immediately inspired confidence. Maya was briefed on intelligence reports about the target facility, guard rotations, and probable defensive responses to a rescue attempt. She studied topographical maps and satellite imagery, identifying potential firing positions and calculating shooting solutions for various scenarios. The equipment issued to Maya was far superior to anything she had used during training. The rifle was a custom-built precision instrument optimized for extreme-range shooting, with optics that could clearly resolve targets at distances exceeding 1,500 yards. The ammunition was match-grade with ballistic characteristics that had been precisely measured and documented. As the team prepared to deploy, Maya found herself experiencing a mixture of excitement and apprehension that she had never felt before. The training exercises at the compound had been challenging, but this operation carried real consequences that would test every aspect of her skills and character. The flight to the operational area gave Maya time to review her shooting data and make final preparations. She checked and rechecked her equipment, verified her ballistic calculations, and ran through various engagement scenarios in her mind. The other team members respected her need for focus and allowed her to prepare without distraction. Upon arrival in the theater of operations, Maya was struck by the stark beauty of the mountainous terrain. The facility where the operative was being held was located in a remote valley, accessible only by a narrow road that wound through treacherous mountain passes. The isolation that made the location defensible also created opportunities. For long-range overwatch positions, Maya's designated firing position was on a ridge overlooking the target facility from a distance of 350 yards. The elevated position provided clear lines of sight to the main buildings and approaches, but it also exposed her to counter-sniper threats if her presence was detected. As she settled into her position and began final preparations, Maya felt a calmness descend over her that surprised her. All the training, equipment tuning, and mental preparation had led to this moment. The technical aspects of the shot were well within her demonstrated capabilities, and the moral justification for the mission was clear. The rescue operation commenced at dawn, with Maya providing overwatch as the assault team approached the facility. Through her scope, she could see guards taking defensive positions as they became aware of the approaching threat. The moment of truth had arrived, when Maya's first target appeared in her crosshairs, an armed guard moving to intercept the rescue team. She felt a strange sense of clarity. The breathing techniques she had practiced thousands of times took over. Her heart rate slowed and her finger found the trigger. The shot was technically perfect, eliminating the threat and allowing the rescue team to continue their approach. In that moment, Maya realized that she had found her true calling. The combination of technical precision, tactical thinking, and moral purpose created a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. She was no longer just someone who could shoot accurately at targets. She was a professional capable of using her skills to protect innocent lives and serve a greater purpose. The rescue operation succeeded, with the captured operative extracted safely, and the team withdrawing without additional casualties. As Maya packed her equipment and prepared to leave the firing position, she reflected on how much her life had changed in just a few days. Jackson Cole's smirk, which had seemed arrogant during their first encounter, now appeared to Maya as the confidence of someone who had recognized her potential before she had understood it herself. "Let's see you hit this," he had essentially challenged her, and she had proven that she could hit anything that needed to be hit. Maya Chen was no longer quietly tuning weapons in the safety of a training compound. She had become something much more significant, a precision professional capable of operating at the highest levels of her craft. The girl who had started with tin cans behind her father's farmhouse had evolved into someone who could make the impossible shot when lives depended on it. As the team departed the operational area, Maya knew that her old life was behind her forever. She had crossed the line into a world where precision mattered more than anything else, where success was measured not in scores, but in lives saved and missions accomplished. It was a world she was ready to embrace fully, with all its challenges and responsibilities. The transformation was complete, and Maya had finally discovered who she was meant to be.